Hello, my name is Dan Skipbound, and this is the 52 must-see movies and why they matter. And on this special Batman The Dark Knight 10-year retrospective, I have a special guest. Introduce yourself, Caleb.
Hi, I'm Caleb Koho. I am one of the admins over at Multiplex Entertainment, one of the co-creators of Fandom Fights, and with Caine, of course, and Tim Smith. And I've been a huge Batman fan for years, so this is a really big deal to be on this episode for me.
So, a question I have that because this is a 10-year retrospective of The Dark Knight, where were you? How old were you when this film came out? And I mean, what is your memories of going to this film and seeing it for the first time?
I was, this is funny because I'm probably one of the youngest guests you've ever had on the show. I was 8 years old when The Dark Knight came out, and I walked into the movie theaters and I'm like, this is a very different Batman, because I knew it was Batman because it was Batman on the cutout, but there was no Batman on the title. I couldn't remember a time before that, because I grew up watching Batman 66, Batman 89, all those classics, and going, I don't think I've ever seen Batman not in the title of a Batman movie before. And I didn't see The Dark Knight until later in my life because my mom was so scared of the Joker in those previews to let me see it. But I remember seeing The Dark Knight Rises in theaters, and that compelled me hardcore to go back and watch the other two. And watching The Dark Knight for the first time blew me away because of just how great, how I realized how a superhero film can transcend the label of being a superhero film and just be a great movie.
Absolutely. I saw this opening night at 12 o'clock midnight on the 17th, or I guess you say on the 18th of July, 2008. And when I walked out of the theater, I was absolutely blown away. I felt like I had seen one of the best movies I had ever seen in my entire life. It felt like it was real. The movie just jumped off the screen, and I just felt like, wow, this is the most realistic portrayal of a superhero or Batman or anything in the IMAX, and everything that the filming style of Christopher Nolan was like. How are we going to say that there's a better movie than this year? This movie was incredible, and I could not believe what I was watching, what I had watched. I mean, and I've watched it dozens of times since then. So in the style of the 52 must-see movies and why they matter, what we're going to do is we're going to break down the cast, and we're going to talk about the film. So obviously Christian Bale is Batman and Bruce Wayne. Michael Caine is Alfred Pennyworth. Morgan Freeman is Lucius Fox. Gary Oldman is Lieutenant Gordon, later on becomes Commissioner Gordon. Maggie Gyllenhaal is Rachel Dawes. And Harvey Dent is portrayed, or Harvey Dent / Two-Face is portrayed by Aaron Eckhart. Those are pretty much the main. There's a lot of like character actors like Eric Roberts and Cillian Murphy and people like that in the film, but those are pretty much the main actors, and those are the characters they portray. And obviously the film is directed by Christopher Nolan. Talk about the cast and the director a little bit.
I think there's never been a better ensemble cast. I know people will come at me with Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers Infinity War of like, those are some great ensembles, but I mean an ensemble that just jived and flowed so well without overtly being, I'm Iron Man and I'm Batman, or I'm Iron Man and I'm Hulk and this is us crossing over. Like, this was like Christian Bale and Michael Caine have such chemistry. Christian Bale and Morgan Freeman, chemistry. Every single person just ebbed and flowed with each other in a way that I've never really seen in a film. Not anything where these characters just feel so connected. It felt like a Batman comic if you had taken it out and changed Gotham to Chicago and changed everyone into realistic roles. And it was just so, like, if you had taken the names off this and just made this a regular crime drama, I wouldn't have known the difference between it being a Batman movie or a crime movie. And I think that is really a testament to the realistic performances of like Christian Bale in both roles of Batman and Bruce Wayne, of Michael Caine's steadfast Alfred, of the self-aware sort of Lucius Fox, and of course the Oscar-winning performance of Heath Ledger's Joker, which is the most transcendent villain in any film, let alone a comic book film. I think those 3 years back to back of 2007, 2008, 2009, where Javier Bardem, Heath Ledger, and Christoph Waltz won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor as villains is one of the best trilogies of acting performances ever. And that's really the crux of Heath Ledger's performance, is that it's just better than a Joker performance, but as a movie.
Yeah, he wins the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for posthumously for The Dark Knight as the Joker. It could have been, if he wasn't the Joker, it could have been just the villain. It could have just been a generic villain. But of course, he was the Joker, and where he was opposite. You know, he's the other side of Batman in a lot of ways. Batman needs a Joker, and a Joker needs a Batman. And I just watched another phenomenal movie of his yesterday, Brokeback Mountain, and the guy is just an incredible actor. And it's, you know, the thing about Heath Ledger is he got advice from Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson said to him, he says, you need to be careful. This role will take over your life. You need to get sleep. And what happened? He wasn't getting sleep. The role did take over his life. He mixed his medications, and he accidentally overdosed on his medications. He had sleeping medications and the anxiety medications and so forth. And it's a sad, it tells you what he put into the role of the Joker for him to body-wise and his soul ended up having something like that happen to him, and how professional of an actor he is, how much he put into his craft.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I think Heath Ledger is the big talking point, but I also just want to really quickly highlight all the little performances, like the character actors, obviously, like Anthony Michael Hall and Cillian Murphy. Every little cameo by them, fantastic. They put 100% in the roles. The actor who plays Reese, his name escapes me at the moment, and all the other people that like don't immediately come to mind, like Aaron Eckhart, who I think deliver phenomenal performances. It's just they all get overshadowed by the greatness of a performance that is just so transcendent of the film that it sometimes those other performances that I think are great, like Maggie Gyllenhaal, just get a little overshadowed.
And William Fichtner at the beginning of the movie, which is where we're going to start right now. The bank robbery scene and the buses, and then we get into a little scene with the Scarecrow. Talk about the bank robbery scene and the buses and William Fichtner.
I remember being like 9 or 10, and the Dark Knight app came out. I had come out about that time, and I had gotten the app because I wanted to watch the movie. Because I was one of those kids that was looking for any way to watch that movie because it was so provocative from the posters and trailers that when I downloaded the app, I started the movie, and it only showed me the first scene, which was the bank robbery scene. And I remember watching that for the first time on my little phone, being blown away by just how brilliant the shots, and just on a plot storyline basis, how the Joker is so careful about how he plans these things, that each member takes each other out once their job is done. And then also is crazy enough to go into the heist and be one of the people committing the job without telling his crew. I remember how outstanding that writing was to me, so much so that it inspired me when it came to my own writing. And the shots of like the glass breaking and the zip lines and the iconic shot of the Joker on the corner with the mask down by his waist are just some images that flash to mind immediately when you say the words "The Dark Knight."
Yeah, to start the movie with that, the movie is an incredible movie, but then the movie starts with that in most nuanced and incredible scene. It's like, oh my God, this is how we start in this movie, and this movie's got 2.5 hours to go. You're like crazy, you're like beside yourself. Of course, then we get the Scarecrow scene with the fake Batman, and Batman shows up, and he, basically captures Scarecrow, and he puts those guys in jail, or he wraps them all up, and he tells the guy, stop being fake Batman. You're wearing hockey pads. You're not me. You're wearing hockey pads. Then we got the scene with all the gangsters in the restaurant, and we got Michael Jai White in there, and we got Eric Roberts in there, and Joker comes in, and he says, I want to show you a magic trick. And he puts a pencil in the table, and a guy, of course, Michael Jai White sends one of his guys over there, and he freaking puts his face right in the pencil. And, of course, it's a magic trick. The pencil disappears. But But what the main part about this scene is, he says, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And that, to me, is a very unbelievable line in the film.
I think that's a crux line for the whole plot. I want to just take a second and look at those two scene introductions for the two main characters of the movie. How Batman comes in that Scarecrow cameo scene, and how the Joker comes in for his pencil stabbing scene are two definitive ways to introduce these two characters. Where Batman comes in and says, "Stop doing my job because I can do it alone," by showing up, beating him up, and it's like, I can do this better than you. Don't get in my way. I'm not wearing hockey pads. That's why I can do this. That's one of my favorite jokes of all superhero movies. And then to contrast that with the Joker coming in and saying, "You need my help for a problem," and just slams the pencil. The magic trick, of course, is the iconic part of that scene. But I think the contrast of Bruce Wayne as Batman entering and saying, "I can do this alone," and the Joker coming in and saying, "You need me to do your work and work with you, and you need to put your trust in someone who you don't know," are just two very contrasting and interesting ways to introduce your two leads that I think is brilliant on Nolan's part.
This leads to Lau, and I know the actor's name and I don't have it in my notes, leaving and getting out of Dodge, and Batman having to go to Hong Kong to he arrives in an airplane, and this is some of the most breathtaking scenery. And this is my first experience of IMAX I have ever had at this time. I've never seen an IMAX movie before this. And I was blown away by the scope of this scene, and the jumping from the building and going in and beating up all the guys and getting Lau. But just the scene, how realistic it looked, like they were right there in Hong Kong. And that was just an incredible scene. And of course, we get a few other IMAX scenes throughout the film, but this is the first one that we really get that's really incredible.
And of course, the breathtaking jumps from the building, puts his arms out scene with the cinematography. Shouts out to Wally Pfister, who I think is one of the most underrated cinematographers of all time. Just I think he got his Oscar already, I believe, for Inception, but he should have got it for this movie and The Prestige. But it's just so beautifully shot with the blues and the blacks as he's diving, and like you said, the scope it was just unbelievable. And I wish I could have seen this movie in IMAX. It would have, I believe that scene would have blown me away.
Yeah, I didn't see it in IMAX, but I saw it in a local theater. Has what they call Epic XL, which is a very large screen, so it was really kind of breathtaking to see on a large screen. Then we get another Joker scene where he tells the story of the scars, his scars, and we get another couple just incredible quotes from Heath Ledger's Joker. "Why so serious?" which is coming from his father as a child. He was a child, and his father said that. And then he goes, "Let's put a smile on that face." And I mean, all the marketing campaign, it had those two quotes all over everything.
And I think what was a real testament to the scene, this movie right here could have taken the jump to R by showing you slicing him. But the thing is, they evoke the same emotion by showing you nothing but the reaction of the other henchman who's watching, and the incredible sound design, which they won the Oscar for, I believe, which is just because of how incredible the pang comes as soon as they cut away. And it gives you, I think, a more visceral, cringing reaction than if we had seen it and gotten the blood and everything, which I think is what makes Nolan even more brilliant when it comes to directing this movie.
Then we get all the bad guys. We basically have a RICO case, which is basically a tax evasion case. 521 counts of fraud and tax evasion and all that. And the name of of course, the news channel is called Gotham Central News or whatever, GCN. And, you know, the Joker, another great line from Heath Ledger, "I'm a man of my word," you know, and Joker crashes into the fundraiser because Christian Bale's Batman, Bruce Wayne, wants to throw a fundraiser for Harvey Dent because he believes in him. He believes that Harvey Dent can be the one guy that can save the city. And of course, the Joker crashes the fundraiser, and of course the fundraiser slogan was, when Harvey Dent was running for office, he said, "I believe in Harvey Dent." And that's another slogan. If you watch the advertising campaign of the Dark Knight, that was everywhere. "I believe in Harvey Dent." And so that was kind of an interesting that you got some of the big campaign and slogans and also the advertising slogans with "Why so serious?" and "Let's put a smile on that face." And those are lines in the film, so they weren't just made up as part of an advertising campaign.
Absolutely. And the gala, I think Heath Ledger, I can't remember where I heard this, but I think Heath Ledger either improvised or it was the first time that he and Michael Caine interacted in the makeup, because Michael Caine was so shocked that he couldn't say it. He forgot a line, and they kept that cut in the movie because it really works. Joker finally showing up face to face with Batman for the first time is definitely one of my favorite scenes in the movie. How Maggie Gyllenhaal is just stone cold faced when faced with the basic horror of their time with the Joker. And also very quickly to backtrack on the I'm a Man of My Word short. I believe Heath Ledger was given creative liberty to direct those little interstitials of him with the video camera. And I think that also is a testament to Heath Ledger as a director, if he had ever branched out into that, of how well he knows how to evoke those emotions and characters, which I think also made him a really good actor. And then, of course, Christian Bale when he sneaks off to be Batman is one of my favorite little parts, because he goes through and there's the two people quickly getting dressed again, just like oh, he's got a safe room, and he goes, oh, no safe room. Yeah. I love that scene.
Then, of course, it transitions into the Joker throwing Rachel out the window and Batman having to save her. But then this starts the die rolling here, because Joker realizes the people that are in cahoots with Harvey Dent, and that's Judge Cirillo and Wirtz, the police commissioner. And Wirtz gets poisoned while Lieutenant Gordon's right in his office, and Cirillo gets her car blown up. So this tells you that he doesn't care. He's going to blow up these people. He's going to kill these people because he knows these are the people that can convict his people, and he doesn't care. He'll do everything. And that's when you get that another classic line, this time, though, from Michael Caine's Alfred: "Some men want to watch the world burn."
Absolutely. I think the Joker is someone so meticulous and brilliant in his planning that he knows who to target in order to protect his end of the bargain and also to protect himself in the situation. And I love Michael Caine's story of the bandits, and how one bandit was going through and just taking the movies and throwing them away because he just wanted to cause chaos. And I love that parallel for the Joker, and especially how Michael Caine delivers it as just this wise old man, which I think Michael Caine, as a young actor, would have never seen himself going the way of wise old Alfred role ever, or becoming even more famous in his twilight years than in his younger years, arguably, with the Dark Knight movies. Absolutely. Yeah. Michael Caine is probably my favorite part of this movie.
Oh yeah, nobody's taking a day off in this film. Everybody's incredible. And so then we get Lucius tells this guy to make sure he goes over the plans with Lau and this and that. What he ends up doing is uncovering their special organization, their special department within Wayne Enterprises, and he tries to threaten Lucius Fox. Then we get the parade scene, because we get the threat in the newspaper to kill the mayor. The mayor's the next guy on his hit list. He puts the threat in the newspaper, and then we have the parade where we have David Dust Malkin dressed as a police officer in the parade. And another line in the film, the Joker has no rules, so you don't know what he's going to do, and then Harvey threatens the David Dastmalchian character with a gun, and this is where we start getting we saw the introduction of the coin, and he tosses the coin because he doesn't know if he should kill him or not. So he's like, let's use the coin, Harvey Dent, Aaron Eckhart. So and that's when we start seeing some incredible scenes in the film with the guys kind of plotting to capture the Joker, but the Joker has a plan of his own. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I also really love the part when Batman shows up and catches the coin. And he's a paranoid schizophrenic. He's not going to tell you anything. And I love that, how Batman is like, you're acting on emotion. I'm acting on logic, intellect, and detective work. So we need to work on the same page. And I love how the crew starts to plot, like, okay, here's how we get the Joker. We put this trap here. And the Joker is just like, nope, but I'm going to use your trap to enact my own trap. And it's this big cat and mouse game that I think Nolan sat down with his brother and was just like, this is going to be every intrinsic step. I think they just drafted out the plan, came back, and were like, okay, now how can we make this even more interesting and compelling and enrich the character's intellect?
Yeah, and so basically Harvey and Batman decide that he's going to turn himself in, that Batman is going to turn himself in at a press conference. And Harvey, a line from Harvey, all the actors have such great lines. He goes, "The night is darkest before the dawn." And at the press conference, he basically says that I'm Batman, and at the parade, Gary Oldman's Lieutenant Gordon gets shot. They think that Lieutenant Gordon is dead at that point in the film. So we don't see him for a little while in the film. And then, when they, Maggie Gyllenhaal's Rachel Dawes, she goes, "Why did you do this? Why did you do this?" She said, "This is your life. You can't leave something like this to chance." And that's a big thing into the character of Harvey Dent and Two-Face.
And how he responds, I'm not. I make my own luck. And I don't know if Goyer or Chris or Jonathan, who came up with all the dialogue, but the combination of the three, they've created such quotable dialogue that isn't over the top or ridiculous, but realistic, yet also thoughtful. And I think that is a very, very difficult thing to do because Tarantino loves doing the big dialogue that's, quick and fast. And I think Jonathan Nolan on his own likes to do the big intellectual dialogue of like, I'm going to just word babble at you. But I think Chris and Goyer there with him helped craft this like perfect blend of his psychobabble and the comics books level dialogue that is realistic. Yet thought-provoking. And I think that is very difficult and very impressive to do.
So then we have a prisoner transfer of Harvey Dent. He's in a armored truck. And, of course, this isn't going to go easy. We get a garbage truck who basically starts coming after there's a fire engine that's on fire in their way. So they go from upper fifth in the movie to lower fifth in the movie. In actuality, it's upper whacker and lower whacker, because we all know the movie was filmed in Chicago and it looks incredible. The streets of Chicago have never looked better than in this film, in my opinion. And don't get me started on The Dark Knight Rises. But that's upper whacker and lower whacker. In the film, it's upper fifth and lower fifth. But and so the truck, it turns out that it's a trap that they're trying to capture because he takes the bait. We think that the Joker takes the bait, that they think that Harvey Dent is actually Batman, and Batman comes in with the tumbler, and he tries to help out. Then the tumbler gets crashed, and he turns the tumbler into a motorcycle.
I think that was the most interesting choice that they made in the movie, where they blatantly go, "We're going to destroy our most marketable toy in the Batmobile to give you a motorcycle." And I remember as a kid, the Batmobile is the coolest car in the history of film, comics, otherwise. And I grew up on the 60s, so the 60s Batmobile was iconic, the 80s, the Batman Adventures, and the Tumbler was the most weird-looking one that I was always most interested in. And destroying that in this movie was the moment where I was like, okay, things are getting super real.
Yeah, and when he gets his new motorcycle, he goes under a mall, an underground mall, which that scene is, I mean, the visuals on that were like, wow, this is incredible. Some of these, I mean, camera shots are just incredible. And of course, they were trying to capture the armored truck, but what's end up happening is he ends up flipping over the big rig and tumbling over, and that, oh, what a scene that was. I saw a special feature on the Blu-ray of that scene, how they set that scene up and everything, and it was pretty cool in how it looked in the movie. And of course, we get the scene is, now there's a Batman, and of course they capture the Joker. Batman's beating the crap out of him, and out comes, out of nowhere, "We got you, you son of a bitch." And it's Jim Gordon. He's not dead. And it turns out that Harvey Dent was a plant. They planted him as the fake, what they wanted them to believe it was Batman, but obviously we know he wasn't. And they think, oh, they finally got the Joker at this point in the film.
And I think Joker is in jail. I think that whole sequence of the truck flipping over and the Joker coming out and has Batman on the ground, he's just kicking him, and he's just like, he kicks his own guy who's down on the ground and tased, and he's just like, or electrified, and he's about to cut him, he's about to get his goal, and he's just like, oh, 5 more minutes, just please give me a minute, when Gordon finally gets him. And I think that's just a great moment from Heath Ledger's character. It's just like, 5 minutes, please, just 5 minutes with Batman. That's all I've wanted. And just how brilliantly that scene is set up visually by Wally Pfister, and how excellent the performance is from Ledger, and how well it's all tied together by Christopher Nolan. It's just, this is like probably the second or third scene in the movie where it's just like, this is what this movie is, and it's the perfect way to just summarize the movie in your mind.
And that, you want to talk about, I mean, that was an incredible chase. To do the camera work on that chase and flipping the truck over and the tumbler and just everything, the garbage truck. I mean, that was just one of the most incredible. That's got to go down as one of the 10 or 15 greatest car chases in movie history, if you call it a chase. I mean, I guess it's a chase, even though it's kind of a prison transfer. But
I would call it a car chase.
Yeah, okay. And then, so this is where the mayor basically comes to Jim and says, hey, you're Commissioner Gordon now, and you don't have anything to say about it. And Joker's in jail. Man is sick in jail. He's like complaining of stomach problems. We now know there was a phone in his stomach. Batman beats up the Joker in jail. And another great line from Heath Ledger and the Joker is, of course, he takes it from Jerry Maguire, "You complete me."
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That interrogation scene in general is just, Ledger's just so on fire on that point. And the guy who's sick with these stomach problems, I relate to him because I myself have a couple stomach issues I was in the hospital for earlier this year. Visually, that image of just the veins and everything destroys me, because it's just like, oh, it's Nolan pushing the boundaries of rating and still getting the point of his story across without being so overtly graphic with it, to just reach in and pull the slightest change to it to make you queasy or make you react exactly the way he wants you to. And that's why Nolan's probably the top 5 best directors of all time.
Oh, yeah. And then he goes to Batman, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve. And this is where we come to find out that a couple of the cops are on the take from the mob. And Rachel and Harvey get captured by Maroney, Eric Roberts' character, because, of course, he's still working for the Joker. Joker's kind of doing all this stuff for them, so he's doing something for him. So they are both in rooms with a bunch of barrels of gasoline, but there's a speaker system in there somehow, and Rachel is talking to Harvey, and what happens is Batman chases after one of them, and Gordon and a bunch of cops chase after the other one. And Joker basically gives Batman the addresses, but he flips the addresses. He gives Batman the address that he thinks he wants to hear, and that's the address to Rachel Dawes. And it turns out it's the address to Harvey Dent. And Jim Gordon had the address to Rachel Dawes. And
I will never forget the moment I watched this movie for the first time. And when that scene hit, where the Joker flips the addresses and he goes, and I'm like, okay, good, he's going to save them. And when he gets there and it's Harvey Dent, my stomach and my heart just sunk. Because in my mind, in every Batman movie ever, it always just seemed like, oh yeah, the Joker's a trickster, but he never hits below the belt, really. I mean, I had only been exposed to the animated series at that point, and Batman '89, where he was kind of like that. And when The Dark Knight happened, that hurt me on an emotional level, because it should have always been Bruce and Rachel. It was supposed to be Bruce and Rachel. And just that moment where the Joker just twists the addresses is gut-wrenching and heart-sinking, because it's like, oh no, he loses. Batman just lost because of playing into his emotions the way Harvey Dent does when he serves his justice. And that was the moment where I think it's juicy, it's emotional, and it just proves why Nolan again made one of the best films of all time. It's such an emotional moment.
But then this is the whole idea of why the Joker went through all of this. I mean, all of this, because he wanted to get arrested. He wanted to get into prison so he could get Lau, because they knew Lau was the one guy that could put all those guys away, and he got what he wanted. The scheming and the tricks that he went through just to do this one little thing. It was amazing, all the stuff that happened. It's incredible that everything that happened just so he could get arrested, so he could get Lau, and Batman and Harvey and Commissioner Gordon all got tricked. They thought they had won, and turns out Joker was one step ahead of them the whole time.
The Joker's just playing a 4-dimensional game of chess with them the whole time, and it's always brilliant, because you always sit there and you think they've got it. They've finally gotten ahead, and every time that you think you take a sigh of relief, because you're like, oh, finally the good guys are in the lead, and then the Joker flips them on their head again and pulls another twist, and it just, every time it happens, it leaves you breathless, because you feel like you can't get off the edge of your seat, and you can't take a solid deep breath, because you never know what's going to happen next or what the Joker is going to do, and that's a testament to Heath Ledger's fantastic performance.
And before Rachel had gotten captured, she left a note for Alfred. And we don't really think much of the note. And Alfred reads the note, and it turns out that the note says that she's in love with Harvey and that she wants to marry Harvey. She doesn't know that Harvey's captured. Harvey doesn't know that she's captured. And what ends up happening is she ends up dying because Gordon couldn't get there soon enough. Harvey gets half his body burnt to a crisp. His suit, his face, ends up in the hospital. In the hospital, and then he ends up, the phone that's in the guy's stomach, turns out it was a trigger mechanism for a bomb, and he blows up the entire police department. The Joker does. So we got all this stuff going on. I mean, it's just fast and furious. I mean, just so much stuff to digest here. And then Two-Face is in the hospital, and What's-His-Face makes a threat to he's going to blow up because the guy, Reese, is on the news, GCN, and he's going to give up Batman's identity, Bruce Wayne's identity, or what they're doing. You know, what's going on in that special department of Wayne Enterprises. So he says, you know what? If I'll pay somebody, blah, 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 how much money to kill the guy, or I'm going to blow up a hospital. And so they end up trying to evacuate the hospital. And he says the priority is Gotham General. So what happens is they're evacuating all the hospital people and the kids and the people, the patients and the nurses and the doctors on these buses. And who slips under their radar is the Joker. And he's dressed with a wig on. And he's got his nurse's costume on. And he goes for a visit to Harvey Dent. And he basically says to Harvey Dent, well, no, Gordon, before that, but Gordon comes in before that and talks to him. And Harvey tells Gordon about a story about internal affairs when he was working at Internal Affairs, how they used to call him Two-Face, that he had a nickname of Two-Face at Internal Affairs. Then we get to the hospital part where the Joker comes in and he starts talking to him. And we get another classic line from the Joker. This town deserves a better class of criminal.
And I think there's so much right there in that section. Very briefly, after the Rachel Dawes' death, everything, and all this is going on with the hospital, Christian Bale gives the most understated emotional performance I've seen in his career. Granted, I haven't seen every movie, but of his major mainstream career, with just she was going to wait for me, Alfred. And at the same time, Aaron Eckhart is having this deep depression in the hospital room of just, I couldn't save her. Why did you save me and not her? And all this is going on, and the Joker comes in and gives yet another performance with the twist of Reese coming out. This is the information, and the Joker going, I don't want the information spoiled anymore, and brings out the worst of humanity, just coming to kill him out of desperation. And then we get to the hospital, even where he wears the getup and where he delivers I'm an instrument of chaos. If a bus of soldiers blows up, no one bats an eye because it's all part of the plan. And that whole spiel he gives is just so fantastic. It's I swear you could have just put that and a few more scenes of his performance. It's so hard. I can't believe they ever made an Oscar reel for his performance for them to submit, because I would have put the entire movie of his performance, let alone just picking one scene. Of course, and then he walks out of the hospital and does the improvised explosion that was not supposed to go that way, which is why it's awesome.
Yeah, but he does a great job. He turns around, he hits the button a couple times. He acts like something was wrong with his thing, and then it does explode. It's like, okay, you don't even realize that it wasn't part of the film, because in actuality, they blew up the building. That building blew up. They were demolishing that building. It was all planned on doing it. It just so happened that Christopher Nolan needed to blow up a building as part of the script, and Chicago was going to blow up like a small little hospital anyway to make room for a bigger hospital or something else that they were going to do. So it just worked into the script that way, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
And then, of course, then Batman, instead of taking the tumbler, he takes the Lamborghini, and he has to go and try and save Reese, who is basically everybody and their brothers trying to go after Reese because they don't want their loved ones to die in a hospital. And, of course, one of the cops has got a person in the hospital, and the cop is right in the car with Commissioner Gordon and the Joker. And, of course, you know, the Joker's like, hey, you know, Commissioner, guys, give me the gun, da-da-da-da-da, you know, I mean, so and then
another great performance from Christian Bale when he smashes the Lamborghini, and they're like, That was a very heroic thing you did there, Mr. Wayne. And he's like, trying to catch the light. And he's just like, oh, you don't know who's in the car, do you? Why? Who's in it? I love the two sides that Bale brings to this role, where he brings that intensity of Batman and he brings that ditziness of Bruce Wayne and merges them together to give this really tragic Bruce Wayne Batman figure that I think is very underrated as a Batman character and a Batman performance. Because Christian Bale, I think, might still hold the top spot despite Affleck's really good running with Batman versus Superman and Justice League.
So when the Joker is in the hospital, he basically convinces Two-Face to become an agent of chaos, and chaos isn't fair. You know, it's another line from me. He says chaos isn't fair. Then we start seeing stuff with Two-Face, and we see Wirtz in a bar sitting there having a drink, and the bartender goes to the bathroom, and who comes up on besides him on the other side of the bar? It's Two-Face Harvey Dent, and he basically convinces Wirtz, he knows what he did and who else was in on it and all this stuff. And he goes to the flipping the coin, and he shoots Wirtz in the head. Now we get a video of the newscaster. The newscaster reads a note that the Joker gave him because he captured the GCN newscaster, and he reads the message. And this basically is to tell them about the two boats. That the bus, one of the things is the bus full of hospital people. He's got the bus, so those are his captives. And what he ends up doing is switching them, taking all the hospital clothes and the street clothes of those people, putting it on his people, and putting all his guys' clothes on the hospital people, and makes them look like they're the thugs and they're the bad guys that are working for the Joker. And Lucius finds out about what Bruce was doing with the sonar thing from the very beginning of the movie, where they went and captured Lau. He was turning into a giant sonar machine where he could trace everybody's cell phone. And of course, Lucius was not a happy camper about this. He says, I'm going to quit if you continue to use this. He says, don't worry, I'm not going to use it. I just need to find a way to find out where the Joker is and pinpoint his location. And so Lucius agrees to help him. And then he says, hey, the password is your name. Once it's all done and you need to destroy the sonar machine, you just put your name in, and that'll trigger it to destroy the sonar machine. The R&D department, that's all part of the R&D department.
I think the chemistry between Christian Bale and Morgan Freeman in the scene is great, because I think personally, my belief is that only Morgan Freeman could play Lucius Fox the way he did, where it's just this, what I says goes, and I am just going to be, what I say is law. That's why he plays a great God character, and he plays a great Lucius Fox character. And Morgan Freeman just saying, I'm not doing this. Consider this my resignation. And you feel it and you believe it. And Christian Bale's retort of just say your name and it's over. And I love it. And I just love the back and forth between the two, and how it also touches on a political issue that had been going on at the time with I think a little bit later than when it happened, but it was the 9/11 people tracking your phones to sort of anti-terrorism and patriotism that they were trying to go for. And I think it was a good little social commentary that didn't overtly hit you over the head with it, but was just like, this fits into the story. So it fits right there. And I think it was a really nice push. And also the thug and hospital patient switch is another example of the Joker's instrument of chaos not playing fair. That took me completely by surprise the first time I saw it when I was younger, because I'm like, that's not fair. And that's when at the moment in the movie with the Rachel Dawes thing, where I realized the Joker doesn't play fair, and he never will. And I think that's just the best. I think that's one of the most intelligent. He's the most intelligent Joker we've ever had on screen, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. Then this leads us into the boats, the ferries, where we have the prisoners on the boat and we have all the people on the boat. and we have what he calls a social experiment. He gives the detonator for the one boat to the prisoners, and he gives the other detonator for the other boat to the people. So each one of them has a certain amount of time to blow up each boat, and if they don't blow up the boat, they're going to blow up all the people and whatnot. So then we go back to Two-Face, and he's got Ramirez at gunpoint, telling her to call Gordon's wife and children to leave, and this is because he knows that he blames Gordon. He blames Gordon for what happened to him, and so that's kind of that.
And what we have here is two of the most tense scenes being set up. The boat scene, with thanks to the person we have not thanked yet for this entire film, Hans Zimmer, whose score is completely outstanding, just scores this movie and this scene specifically, where he creates this tension where you are holding your breath to see if the prisoners or the people are going to blow up the other ship first. And it is truly one of the scariest social experiments that thankfully proves to be positive because no one dies. But and then we get to the ending, but we haven't quite reached that yet. But that also very tense moment.
Yeah, well, Batman, he knows something's going on. He tells Gordon to give him some time. He's going to try to figure out what's going on with the prisoners, or the men in the masks and the prisoners, and he does figure it out. He figures out that the cops are the good guys are in the masks, and the bad guys are in the doctor outfits and the nurse outfits. So he has to go through that whole thing using the sonar. Lucius helps him with the sonar, and they beat up all the bad guys. And eventually, Joker sicks the dogs on him, but he, beats up the dogs, gets the Joker, throws him off the building, but he sends a grappling hook down and he captures the Joker, and he just can't let him die. And the Joker's like, yeah, you just can't let me die. You're conscious. You can't, inside of you just couldn't let me die. But guess what? I had an ace in the hole, and my ace in the hole was Harvey Dent. And he's got a great quote here that I want to. Man, this is like gravity. All you need is a little push.
His last line in the movie, Heath Ledger's last line in an iconic performance, is just utterly terrifying because we leave him there to laugh. But I love the line, that the little bit that he has with Batman there as he's hanging there, where he says, "This is where the immovable force." Or the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. You will never kill me, and I will never stop because you're just too much fun. And just that exchange is just so brilliant, where Batman is just, you'll rot in a cell forever. And he goes, will I? Because I'll be back to torture you over and over and over. And it just sets up the infinite parallel, the infinite conflict that Batman and Joker always have. And unfortunately, we never got to see it continued. But in my heart and my mind, that battle would have been infinite forever. 7 movies worth of just these two, and I would have watched every single one. They're just they play off each other so well. Heath Ledger could have done that role for 80 years and gotten the same critical praise for this movie with each installment.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we fast forward to Harvey Dent's got Commissioner Gordon's family, and of course, he's got the 50-50 chance, and he points a gun at the people responsible, and he believes that the people responsible are Commissioner Gordon's wife. He wants to kill Commissioner Gordon's children, or the one he loves, and he realizes I believe it's Billy, the blonde kid is Billy, if I'm not mistaken. But then Batman shows up and he says, no, point the gun at the people responsible. And so he does. He flips the coin, and Batman loses the coin toss. He shoots Batman. Then he flips the coin, puts it at himself. He doesn't get the. And then out of nowhere, he's about to shoot Commissioner Gordon, and Batman dives over, grabs him. They fall down a shaft, and the kid is in his hand, but Batman saves Billy, the little kid. I think it's Billy, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it is. It might be Billy, but I might be mistaking it with my comics knowledge. It might be James Gordon Jr.
Okay.
Because that's who it is in the comics who becomes a serial killer. But I believe I might be Billy, but also played by Joffrey, my personal hero. But yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
That's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
But I think that ending scene where the three of them are there is a great parallel to earlier in the film, which is a great shot ripped right out of the Long Halloween comic, where the three of them are talking around the bat signal on the roof, and it comes down to the end of it where they're standing there and he shoots at Batman and he doesn't shoot himself, and then he points the gun at Jim's kid because he knows killing Jim's kid would hurt Jim more than killing Jim. And just that moment where it's that, again, is one of the most tense moments, especially because of Hans Zimmer's incredible score of just how terrifying that single.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's just you definitely didn't want to see that little child get shot.
Oh no.
And then at the end, Batman basically tells Gordon, says, "Hey, you need somebody to blame. I'm the man to blame. I can hide. I can get away. I can escape. You know, you can't take the blame for this. We can't blame Harvey. They needed a hero. They need someone that they could have rooted for." And so he basically takes the blame and tells him not to blame Harvey, even though, you know, Harvey is to blame for some of the stuff, you know, that's happened. Lucius blows up the sonar machine. And when Commissioner Gordon's son asks him, he says, we need a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight, as Batman is running away and jumping on the motorcycle and escaping the cops. This really is the character of the Batman. This really shows you the character. He can never be a happy character. You know, he's always running for his life. He's always taking the blame for things, you know, just because it's just easier for him to put all this pressure and all this stuff on himself. He's able to take in this darkness within himself, you know?
Absolutely. And in that ending bit, we get a line, I think it was said once or twice before, and it's probably one of the most iconic lines in the movie. Either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And the last time they say it is the most impactful to me because he takes the face of Two-Face and he puts it over off the charred to the shining face that people remembered. And it is one of the most brilliant iconographies that they have created and one of the most, I think, definitive Batman exiting things ever, of him just running into the night. And, of course, Jim going, I will hunt you down, and breaking the bat signal, and all of this extra stuff that happens on the ending in just little clips and montages are so well put together that it's just, you feel for Batman, but at the same time you root him into the night because he gets to escape and he gets to continue fighting until we find out the Dark Knight Rises is 8 years later and he's been gone for 8 years.
Yeah. And so, Caleb, one of the things about this series, it's based off of a book by Robert Osborne, the 52 Must-See Movies and Why They Matter. And then 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago or so, myself and some friends, we took every movie from that book and we did videos and we did the 52 Must-See Movies and Why They Matter. And I thought to myself, well, I think there's more than 52 must-see movies. And so what I decided to do with the six is to do a second season. And the second season, I let some friends of mine make some choices and do some nominations of videos and movies that they want to talk about. So that's what we've been doing for season 2. This is a special Dark Knight retrospective. But the question that we always ask from the very beginning, and then what the book asks is, what is so essential about each and every one of these films that we're talking about and why we're discussing them? And even though this wasn't a nominated film, I felt like I wanted to do this retrospective of The Dark Knight because I felt this movie was an incredible movie, even though it's such a new movie. It's only 10 years old, and most of the movies I do are 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. And I appreciate you coming on and doing this episode. So I ask you the question, why is The Dark Knight an essential film for everybody to see for years and years to come?
I think there are multiple reasons. I think there are multiple boxes that it checks to qualify. I think if you're going to pick one superhero movie in the history of superhero movies to place into the top 52 to say this is what a superhero movie can be, what it should be, and how excellently it can be portrayed, this is the one you pick. I think it transcends a superhero movie and becomes a great movie because of the craftsmanship of the movie, the great cinematography by Wally Pfister, the score by Hans Zimmer, the great film editing, down to the makeup of the Joker, and of course, all the incredible performances. Nolan handpicked and crafted the story he wanted to tell in a way with a property that already existed. And that's hard to do, because when a creator comes in and they have certain boxes they have to meet, or certain things they have to fit into. And no one has ever done it the way Nolan has, where he takes the qualifications and he goes, these are the qualifications, but I'm going to distort them, twist them, and make them the way that they fit into the narrative I want to tell. And Nolan absolutely knocks it out of the park with just how he paces the story, the tension, the performances, the intelligence, the characters, just the emotions given, the lines delivered, from the screenwriting from Jonathan Nolan, David S. Goyer, and Christopher Nolan, to the cinematography of Wally Pfister, the score of Hans Zimmer, the direction of Christopher Nolan, the performances of Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, Michael Caine. They are all so outstanding, understated, and over the top all at once to give you a film that I think nothing can ever imitate again, and has never been done before it. And I think if you're going to pick a singular movie to represent a genre or a space, or a singular movie even that just fits into what you would deem essential as a filmmaker, it checks all those boxes, and not with just a pencil, with a Sharpie, with a big felt pen. It just checks every box that I feel makes it an essential movie.
Wow. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, I don't know what else I can add to that. You said it all. I mean, I love the visuals of this film. I just thought when I was watching it, it just looked so visceral and so real to me. It looked like it could have been taking place right at that moment I was watching it. Like the streets looked like so realistic, and the dialogue was just so cutting edge dialogue, so realistic dialogue. And Heath Ledger obviously gives one of the most incredible performances of anybody, let alone his own career. And of course, the cast. I mean, Morgan Freeman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Maggie Gyllenhaal. There's so many people. Just the little William Fichtner, Eric Roberts, and so many different just things that make this movie such an incredible, great film. I cannot say enough about this film, and I cannot say enough about you to come on here this evening and talk with me about this 10-year retrospective about this film. And I just want to say thank you. And where can you be found, Caleb?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Kalob Koho. That is KALEB KOHO. You can find me on YouTube, Kalob Koho, where I do music stuff, Koho Productions, where I do a lot of film stuff. In fact, July 25th, my movie Chick Part 2 comes out, which it's not your typical movie, but as I've been working on writing and directing and making my own films recently, and I got my friends together and we made this comedy about us going to Tennessee, going on this trip, and we just kind of made a vlog and turned it into a funny sort of unscripted narrative. And I also work with Multiplex Entertainment. I am the head, one of the heads over there, and a showrunner for Fandom Fights. I also compete in that league. I compete in trivia all over, including World Wide Movie Games and the Comic Book League that Grant runs in all sorts of places. So if you want to find me, you can find me around. Also, my group, The Forks, I put out our debut album, Street Fatigues, back in February. So if you are interested in rap music, yes, I do not look like a rapper, but I am one. And my group put that on back in February. So if you're interested in that, check that out. It's on Spotify, iTunes, all those great places. And of course, I'm all around here, so if you just keep your eyes out, WWNG, FMT, Multiplex, you'll find me. I'm here.
And you can find me at Dan Skipbound on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, or at From the Fourth Row. Or if you want to see my written reviews, I'm a film critic, and I write movie reviews at cinesportstalk.com. That's CINESPORTSTALK.com, cinesportstalk.com. So for Caleb and myself, Good evening.